Welcome back to the deep dive. We have a really fascinating one today because we're going to attack a sacred cow.
Mhm.
If you spend any time on the gun internet or even just walking past the lanes at your local range, you know the image I'm talking about. It is the ultimate flex.
The ragged hole.
Exactly. The paper target with the center just absolutely burned out. 5, maybe 10 shots, all stacked into a single jagged tear.
Like one giant bullet went through. They call it a keyhole group.
And the caption on Instagram usually is always, "I am a machine, I am lethal."
It's sort of held up as the gold standard for marksmanship, or, at least that's what we're all told. It's the metric we chase.
Right. But we have a stack of research here today, headlined by a really provocative article from Herfel at Valortech, and backed up by some classic FBI data and newer medical studies that says this specific type of precision might actually be getting you killed.
It's a bold claim, I know.
Uh,
But when you look at the data, it really holds up. The argument isn't that being accurate is bad.
of course not.
Accuracy is obviously good. The argument is that optimizing for a keyhole group is, well, it's optimizing for a metric that has almost nothing to do with how human biology actually shuts down.
In a real fight.
In a real fight, exactly.
Right.
It's the difference between winning a match and stopping a threat.
So today we are unpacking incapacitation mechanics. We are going to look at the messy biological reality of what stops a human being, why stacking rounds is like mathematically inefficient, and the terrifying 8-second window that nobody likes to talk about.
This is a heavy one. We're going to be talking about wound ballistics and physiology, so, fair warning to the listener, it gets a little graphic.
It does.
But it's necessary to understand the mechanics if you want to understand the reality of defense.
Before we get into all that, let's do some housekeeping on definitions. Because when I hear keyhole, I usually think of a bad thing.
Right.
Like the bullet is tumbling through the air and it hits the target sideways.
Yeah, in a technical sense,
Mhm.
if a ballistician talks about a keyhole, they usually mean your barrel is shot out or your ammo is unstable.
A mechanical failure.
Exactly. A mechanical failure. That is not what we're talking about today.
We are talking about the good kind, the intentional grouping.
Correct. We're analyzing the keyhole group. The deliberate attempt to put every single round through the same, micro-inch of space. The source material calls this a precision diagnostic.
All right, so let's start there. The precision trap. I want to push back on this immediately because it just feels so counterintuitive.
I get it.
If I can put 5 rounds through a hole the size of a dime, doesn't that prove I'm a better shooter than the guy who sprays them all over the target?
It proves you are a master of mechanics. It proves that in a sterile environment where you're standing still, the target is standing still, the lighting is perfect,
And nobody's shooting back.
and nobody is shooting back. You have perfect trigger control.
But isn't that the foundation? You have to walk before you can run.
It is the foundation, yes. But the source argues that it becomes a trap when you confuse the diagnostic with the tactic. Herfel makes a really interesting point about redundancy. Think about it physically. You fire a bullet. It crushes tissue and creates a wound channel.
Okay, I'm visualizing that. A tunnel through the tissue.
It destroys that specific cylinder of meat. Now, if you fire a second bullet perfectly through that exact same hole, what have you destroyed?
Nothing new.
Exactly. You are shooting through air. You're shooting through a hole you already made. Physiologically, that second bullet contributes almost zero new stopping power.
Uh-huh.
You aren't cutting new blood vessels. You aren't hitting a new nerve. You're just making an existing hole slightly redder.
That is actually wild. I never thought about it that way. I always thought, well, I'm hitting the heart, so I'm doing double damage.
But you're just drilling the same hole deeper.
Yeah.
And usually not even deeper, just through the same path.
Right.
In a defensive situation, efficiency is everything. The source calls this concentric redundancy. In biology, distributing damage is exponentially more effective than stacking it.
So you want to open multiple channels?
You want to hit the left ventricle, then the right lung, then maybe the spine. You want to overwhelm the system, not just bore a clean tunnel through one part of it.
So the ragged hole is aesthetically pleasing. It looks great on the wall. But tactically, it's a waste of ammo.
It's a waste of time. And that is the variable that matters most.
Okay, let's get into that why. The source material breaks this down, actually stopping a human attacker, into 2 metaphors that I found really helpful. It's basically plumbing and electrical work.
Switches and valves. It's the best way to simplify a really complex system.
Right.
If you want to stop someone instantly, and I mean drop to the floor, lights out instantly, you have to hit a switch.
And the switch is the central nervous system.
Right. The brain, specifically the brain stem or the upper spinal cord.
Mm?
The source cites some old FBI data on this.
Yeah.
If a projectile physically disrupts the brainstem, you get what they call an abrupt loss of purposeful motor control.
It's literally pulling the plug from the wall socket.
That's a perfect analogy. The electrical signals from the brain just can't reach the hands or legs. Gravity takes over.
The threat drops.
That is the only reliable instant stop.
But, and here's the catch, that switch is small.
It is tiny. We are talking about a target the size of a grapefruit or maybe a tennis ball, usually protected by the thickest bone in the body.
And in a fight, it is bobbing around on a neck like a balloon in the wind.
Exactly. So aiming for the switch is a very high-risk gamble. If you miss completely.
Which is why 99% of defensive training focuses on center mass.
The big part of the chest. But when we shoot center mass, we aren't targeting switches anymore. We are targeting valves.
The circulatory system, heart and lungs.
The pump and the pipes. And this is where the source material just destroys movie logic.
Oh, yeah.
We've all seen the movie scene where the bad guy gets shot in the chest, flies backward, and is dead before he hits the carpet.
One shot, game over, the physics alone.
Which is nonsense. If a bullet had enough force to knock a man down, the recoil would knock the shooter down too.
Yeah. Newton's third law.
It doesn't take a day off. But the biology tells us the instant death part is also a lie.
This was the part of the research that honestly scared me the most. There's a study cited here by Van Dyke. I highlighted the 8-second window.
It changes your entire perspective on self-defense, doesn't it?
Walk us through this, because 8 seconds doesn't sound like a long time until you really think about it.
Okay, so let's say you fire a perfect shot. Yeah. You hit the valve. You literally destroy the attacker's heart. It stops beating completely. Zero blood pressure.
So, medically, he's dead.
He is fatally wounded. But he is not stopped. That attacker still has enough oxygenated blood sitting in their brain to function for roughly 8 seconds.
They're dead walking.
They're dead, but they're not stopped. Their brain hasn't gotten the memo yet. And 8 seconds is an eternity in a fight.
I tried to visualize this. In 8 seconds, a person can run across a room. They can pull a knife. They can empty a 15-round magazine.
They could detonate a vest.
Yeah.
They can kill you and your family 3 times over. This is the operational reality the source emphasizes. Even with a fatal wound to the valve system, the threat is not neutralized until cerebral perfusion fails.
Until the brain runs out of gas.
And that takes time.
So connecting this back to the keyhole trap, if I'm standing there, carefully aligning my sights to put 3 rounds through the exact same hole in the heart.
You're wasting time you don't have. You're inflicting damage that isn't speeding up the clock. If you have an 8-second timer counting down, you don't want to hit the same spot twice. You want to open as many leaks as you can.
To drop that blood pressure faster. Or you need to give up on the valves and try to hit the switch.
Right, but staring at your front sight, trying to make art on the target, that keyhole mentality, is burning precious seconds while that person is still operational.
You're trying to be a surgeon when you need to be a demolition crew.
That's a great way to put it. It really strips away the magic, doesn't it? It's not about stopping power as this mystical energy. It's just plumbing failure.
It is engineering. And speaking of mystical energy, we have to take a detour here because the source material brings up hydrostatic shock.
Oh, boy. The internet's favorite debate.
We can't avoid it.
Nope.
So for listeners who aren't deep in the ballistics forums, hydrostatic shock is the theory that a bullet hits the body with so much velocity, it sends a pressure wave through your tissues.
Like a tsunami?
And that shock wave can cause damage in remote places, like a brain hemorrhage from a chest hit.
That's the theory. And there are studies, the source cites Courtney and Courtney, that argue this is a real factor. They claim the pressure wave itself is a wounding mechanism.
A mini concussion for the whole body.
Right. But our main source, Herfel, and the classic FBI data from Dr. Fackler are extremely skeptical. Or at least they're skeptical about it mattering for handguns.
Why the distinction? Is it just speed?
It's velocity and energy. Think of it this way. A rifle bullet is moving at, 3,000 feet per second? It hits with massive energy. It creates a massive temporary cavity, that ballooning effect you see in gelatin videos. That does tear tissue. But a handgun bullet, it's moving at maybe 1,000, 1,200 feet per second.
So it's not a tsunami, it's a ripple.
Exactly. The source argues that for handguns, you cannot rely on energy transfer or shock. A handgun bullet is not a death ray. It is a mechanical drill.
I like that analogy, a drill versus a grenade.
A grenade blows things up around it. A drill only damages what it physically touches. We call this the permanent cavity.
The tissue that's actually crushed and cut.
That is the workhorse.
Yeah.
The temporary cavity, the shockwave is just a bonus. If it helps, great. But you cannot build a survival plan around it.
So don't count on the knockout punch of the bullet's energy.
Never. If you are carrying a pistol, you are carrying a tool that relies on penetration and placement. You have to physically damage the switch or drain the valves.
Relying on shock is just hope.
It's hope, not tactics. And this brings us to the part of the article that really clicked for me regarding mindset. The paradox of time.
We talked about the 8-second window, but the article argues that the attempt to shoot a keyhole group actually creates a psychological failure in the shooter.
They call it cadence collapse.
Cadence collapse. That sounds like a heart condition. Break that down.
It's a processing condition.
Yeah.
Okay, to shoot a single ragged hole, you need perfect sight alignment for every single shot.
Right.
You fire, the gun recoils, you bring it back down, you wait for the sights to settle perfectly, you verify, you press, you verify again.
You're confirming the picture.
You are over-confirming. In a sterile range environment, that's fine. But in a fight, that creates a stutter. You're waiting, checking, adjusting.
And the bad guy is moving, and that 8-second clock is ticking.
Exactly. You are prioritizing the quality of the hit over the relevance of the hit. The source suggests we need a new metric.
Okay.
Instead of how tight is the group, we should be asking, are these hits time relevant?
Time relevant. That's a strong phrase.
It means, is this hit delivered now worth more than a perfect hit delivered in 2 seconds? Usually the answer is yes.
There's an example in the text about CNS hits the switch. It says, tiny groups anywhere are irrelevant.
Think about it. If you put 5 rounds into a 1-inch group in the guy's shoulder, congratulations on the grouping.
Right.
But you haven't stopped the fight. It's medically annoying, but he can still pull a trigger.
Conversely,
take a 5-inch group, a spread the size of a dinner plate, delivered across the high chest in half the time. You hit the left lung, the right lung, the aortic arch, maybe you nip the spine.
that sounds messy.
It is messy,
Yeah.
but it is infinitely more effective. You have overwhelmed the system, you've opened multiple leaks, you've increased the probability of hitting something vital because you cast a wider net.
It's the difference between being a sniper and being a gunfighter.
That is the takeaway. The keyhole is a sniper's metric applied to a gunfighter's problem. A sniper has 1 shot, usually from a hidden position, with no time pressure.
They need the keyhole.
They do. A person defending themselves in a parking lot needs volume of fire into vital anatomy before the bad guy gets them.
So, if we aren't measuring our success by how small the hole in the paper is, what should we be measuring? Because we all like metrics. We like to know if we're getting better.
Right. The source gives us a list of what to measure instead, and it shifts the focus to, let's say, applied ballistics.
Okay.
The first one is first shot time plus a vital zone hit.
Speed out of the holster.
Can you get the gun out and put a round in the heart-lung box in under 1.5 seconds? That matters more than if the bullet went through the bullseye or an inch to the left.
If you can hit a keyhole, but it takes you 4 seconds to draw, you lost.
You already lost.
Yeah.
The second metric, hits while moving.
Vital. If you are standing still in a gunfight, you're a target.
Can you hit a dinner plate size zone while you are backing up or moving laterally?
And physics says you probably won't shoot a keyhole group while running backward.
It's impossible. Your body is moving, the gun is moving, the group will open up.
Right.
If your standard is ragged hole, you'll feel like you're failing when you see a 6-inch spread. But the source says, no, that 6-inch spread while moving is actually a higher level of skill than the 1-inch spread while standing still.
And the final metric? Decision-making.
This is the hardest one to measure on a flat range, but it's crucial. The source mentions post-shot assessment. Are you looking at the target to see your pretty group?
Tunnel vision on the paper. Did I get the bullseye?
Right. In a real fight, looking at your work gets you killed. You need to be scanning. Is the threat actually down? Are his friends coming? Where's the exit?
If you are trained to stare at the hole you just made, you aren't looking at the world around you.
It seems like the keyhole mentality trains you to be an observer, not a participant. It trains you to be a spectator of your own shooting.
So let's bring this all together. We've bashed the keyhole pretty hard. Is it useless? Should I stop trying to shoot tight groups?
No, it's not useless. It is a diagnostic tool. Think of it like a dyno test for a car. You put the car on the rollers to see if the engine is working perfectly.
But you don't drive on the dyno.
Exactly. If you can't shoot a tight group when you're calm, relaxed, and drinking coffee, you certainly won't be able to hit a barn when you're terrified and your heart rate is 180.
So use it to check the hardware.
Use it to check the hardware and verify your fundamentals. It is the foundation, not the house. But don't confuse the foundation with the mission.
And the mission is stopping power.
Which, as we've learned, is just stopping biology.
And biology is messy, redundant, and durable.
To shut it down, you need to disrupt the switch or drain the valves, and you need to do it against a clock that is running against you.
And realizing that even a heart shot gives them 8 seconds really underlines why we can't be complacent with one perfect shot.
It changes everything. It means you shoot until the threat stops. You don't shoot once, admire the placement, and reholster.
You assume the first shot failed?
You assume the second shot failed. You keep solving the problem until the behavior changes.
It's a grim reality, but I think understanding the mechanics, the switches and valves, makes it much less abstract. It removes the movie magic and replaces it with engineering limitations.
And that is what saves lives. Relying on myths gets people hurt. Understanding limitations allows you to plan around them.
So here is a thought to leave you with. We spent this whole time talking about shooting, but this concept of the keyhole trap, optimizing for a metric that looks impressive but doesn't solve the actual problem, feels pretty universal.
Oh, absolutely. It's essentially Goodhart's law.
When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure.
Exactly. We see it everywhere.
I'm thinking about the corporate world polishing a PowerPoint slide until it's a keyhole of perfection, obsessing over the font and the alignment while the actual project is burning down behind you.
Or in fitness, obsessing over the number on the scale, the perfect weight, while ignoring that you feel terrible, you have no energy, and you can't run up a flight of stairs.
You hit the metric, but you miss the health.
Or standardized testing in schools. We teach kids to get the perfect score, the keyhole, rather than actually understanding the material. We optimize for the test, not the life skill.
We train for the sterile environment, not the chaotic reality. So that's your homework, listeners. Look at your own life. Where are you striving for a ragged hole of perfection on a scorecard that doesn't actually matter? Are you shooting for a keyhole when you should be looking at the clock?
Time is the only currency you don't get back. Don't waste it drilling the same hole twice.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. Stay safe, stay curious, and we'll catch you on the next one.